going a little off the record.
Look what the cat dragged in here.
Welcome back, everybody, to another edition of Off the Record, where you already know we go off the record. Mamba's already laughing, so that means the show is official. You know, sometimes you got to get to halfway in a NASCAR race, but in this show, the first 5 seconds make this an official podcast, an official show. I got an esteemed panel of guests with me this week. I think we may have had this foursome together before.
I think we have.
But anyways, we got Mamba, we got the other Dillon, better Dillon, and we got Toby Christie of TobyChristie.com. Fellas, first of all, how we doing? What a race. What a weekend we saw this weekend in Phoenix. Mamba, I know you were there. It was great to see you. Dillon, I know you were relaxing for a change. And Toby, I know that your Twitter fingers were going nuts. A lot of places to start, a lot of places to go. Let's start with Phoenix, though. Mamba, how was your time out there, and how was your adventure getting out of there?
You know, Phoenix was great. I love Phoenix. I love going out to Phoenix. It's probably my favorite place to go out to the nightlife. Honestly, it's one of my favorite places to go visit. Indy's right up there too, but Phoenix is like it. But I only can be out there for a few days because I need hydration. I need water in my air, and there's absolutely none. My voice is still like coming back, but it was cool to see everybody. You know what I mean? I've been around for like 10 years in total, but I've been gone for like 3 years from the racetrack. And it's just cool to see those faces and like see you. Like I haven't actually seen Davey in like years in person. So it's like really good to see you and see a lot of people. So I had a great time out there.
Dillon, was it weird not being at the track and not being on the broadcast for the first time in what seems like months?
A little, but not really. I'm kind of used to not working championship weekend. I worked it couple of years ago for MRN when it was at Homestead, but haven't done the last two for NBC. So it was nice to just be able to kind of sit there and watch it and be a fan for the weekend. Obviously it was 3 really good races and 4 if you count the ARCA race, which obviously was crazy too, but was a good weekend of racing.
Let's open it up with Toby to talk about the race weekend. Kyle Larson, Daniel Hemric, Ben Rhodes, and can't forget Jesse Love in the ARCA Menard Series West. They all brought home championships. Take it any direction you want to, TC. What stood out to you about the championship weekend overall? The vibe there, I can tell you, Mamba can attest as well. It was second to none. It was awesome out there. Unfortunately, you weren't out there with us, but you were watching anything and everything that you could consume from home. I know you were. So what are your main takeaways from this championship weekend in Phoenix?
I mean, the question I have is how do you stop basically on the track with 1 lap to go? We're talking about the ARCA West race to start things off.
I'll tell you how, because the spotter tells him the race is over because the checkered flag was out. Technically,
that's awful. I mean, that's so terrible, and I feel for Jake Drew. That's a heartbreaking way to lose a championship.
Yeah. He took it in stride, so good for him. But still,
he did. But man, that's got to be hard. Like, oh, that's awful. Yeah. So from that aspect, I feel really bad for him on that. All the rest of the action throughout the week was really good. I thought every race was good. I didn't think there was any moments where you're like, okay, this is kind of getting out of control. They need to end this thing. This is ridiculous. Like we sometimes get these weird moments towards the end of these things where it gets to be too much with all the wadding up of cars and stuff like that. Yeah. But I don't think we really had that this weekend. I think it was pretty professional and pretty good all the way through.
Yeah, Dillon, I think that for the most part, the racing itself was good. The racing was clean. I will say, coming off of Martinsville, especially with the trucks to kick off things on Friday night, I thought it was going to be a bloodbath, but they seemed pretty clean. The post-race shenanigans with Ben Rhodes, which we'll get to, that was the best part of things. But the race overall and the Xfinity and the Cup Series race, Dillon, I think that everything went pretty smoothly and it was pretty good racing.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that And really, it kind of has always been at Phoenix. I mean, I think it's a big enough place that, guys are not generally going out there, and sometimes they will, but, generally you're not running over the top of each other, like we see at Martinsville. So, yeah, I was glad that, and the one, obviously the big story of the contact with Hemric and Cindric, was, I thought, like as tastefully done as it could have been done. He didn't drive down in there and just run over him. He got in there and just kind of moved him up a little bit, and that was all he needed to do. So I thought the racing all weekend was great, and across all 4 series, it was really, really enticing the entire weekend.
Besides seeing me, Mamba, I know you had a great time.
I did. I went out one night. I kept it down to one night. So, that's good for me, didn't delete too many Trulies, probably like one pack, so not bad.
Right.
But
Progress.
no. So here, my thing about like piggybacking off of what Dillon just said is this is the first time we saw turn 4 with the new configuration used the way I think everyone envisioned it being used, which is because that's a normal corner, I guess, as short tracks go. Like the other corner is really flat and long, right? So it's a little different in how you approach it. But Hemric went down in there, he did it right and gave him just enough to get him up the hill. Didn't wreck him. If he did wreck him, it still would have been fine to me because whatever. But the fact that he did it so gracefully without wrecking him, just like is an extra plus on that for him. And I saw him in victory lane after and gave him a hug.
Saw you on the broadcast, big boy.
I did not know it was still going, so that's cool. I just told him, I said, this is one for the racers. This is one for the racers, the grinders.
The grinders.
This is one for them. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I feel like, and Toby, you've written about Hemric all season long, the near misses, the rivalry that he was with Noah Gragson, and then Martinsville last weekend, voluntarily, his words, not mine, kind of giving up his best chance at the win. It feels like this is one of, if not the most popular win, most popular championship in the garage, spanning all 3 national series that we've seen in a really, really long time. Nobody has a better word to say about a guy than Daniel Hemric. It's like him and Justin Allgaier are like P1 and P2. They both just happen to be really good in the Xfinity series, but this one is a really, really popular one. So that was cool to see all the positivity.
Yeah, definitely. And for him, he kind of flipped the script on his career in one night, because had he just kind of chilled out and just took the second place finish without initiating contact and stuff like that, it goes from Daniel Hemric champion and holy crap, that was awesome, to, oh my gosh, this guy's just going to always finish second. He just doesn't have what it takes. He doesn't want to go that extra mile to rough somebody up for it if he has to. So this totally changed things. And I think going forward, it gives him confidence to go, you know what, I can do it. If I throw it in there in the last turn, on the last lap, I can make it stick enough to where it's not going to look egregious. I can make this happen. And this is huge. I mean, this is really big. And the other thing I took away from it was Austin Cindric, who was very, very frustrated with how things happened at Bristol a couple months ago, really took things in stride this time around. I think he understood after Bristol that when it's a good race at the end, the fans are pumped, and that can actually be a bigger thing than if you were to win the race yourself. So I was impressed with his reaction to finishing second as well.
Yeah, I was impressed with his reaction the past couple weeks, because I think somebody in Martinsville was going to ask Daniel the question about what happens if you win the title and you don't win. And Austin stopped him, interrupted, and then went on this impassioned rant for a couple minutes defending Daniel. Yeah. And even after Saturday night, when, he gets knocked out of the way on the last corner, last lap to lose the championship, he was sitting up there with AJ Allmendinger. They were giving each other shit. Austin Cindric's words, not mine, quote, "I love you." That was in the transcript while he was talking to AJ Allmendinger. It was really funny. But I mean, Dillon, from your perspective, right? You're a racer. So that move coming off of 4, I asked Austin, he kind of gave a non-answer, but if you were in that position, would you have done the same thing? Do you think that Hemric's move was fair game?
I mean, I think it was. And I think that's what this format is, when you're in Austin's shoes, you're never going to like it or care for it because you got the bad end of the deal. But, I think that all year, in these elimination races, I mean, and all of us as media people are guilty of hyping up the excitement of you have to win and at all costs. So, that's what you had to do. And I thought Toby's point was great that, Daniel took himself from being a guy who, for one reason or another, can't win, to making, putting himself in a position to win by his own accord. He took that race into his own hands and made it happen. And so I think that for him, that was probably worth, as much as winning the actual championship, him just getting up on the wheel, making something happen. And it, rewarded him with, the biggest prize of all.
Yeah. First win for Hemric, first championship for Hemric, win for everybody in the garage, win for the grinders. And when we come back, we're going to talk about his celebration, because I, for one, was very, impressed with that. Stick around. We'll be right back with Off the Record. Welcome back to Off the Record. Davey Segal hanging out with my boys Mamba, Dillon Welch, and Toby Christie. I found that interesting, Mamba. Actually, when I brought us back from break, you did not laugh because it was not the full intro. So is it only the full intro where you laugh? Is that the rule?
It's just the beginning when we get going, because I feel like I haven't talked to you in like a week every time we come back. And I'm like, this guy, like, I can't deal with this guy. And it just gets me every time. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you.
It's your face. I
don't know. I just love it. I love it, man.
Let's talk Hemric's backflip, because we knew that this was coming. But even still, I still was like, whoa, he didn't just go ahead and was like, yeah, I'm about to do a backflip, guys, right away. Like, I only got the tail end on my camera when I was recording because he just went right into that thing. And I think, Toby, Carl Edwards used to do it from the door. Hemric did it from the roof.
Right.
So, I mean, that's an extra 2 feet right there of air.
When I saw him go to the roof, I was like, oh, he's going to the top rope. This could be bad. Like, I've never seen this. This might not work. And it worked. Yeah. But yeah, that was nervous for a second.
I think that's how he always has done it, though. I think like we got used to Carl so much, but I think Daniel in his whole career has done it from the roof.
But a Legends car is different than an Xfinity car, theoretically.
Yeah, you need that extra height with the Legends car.
Yeah.
Okay,
but when you look back at the photo that's kind of staring at Dave Rogers and the rest of the crew there, they don't look like he's gonna land in there. Our guy just died. But he pulled it off. It was pretty good.
Yeah. Dillon, we saw him do it on the golf course after Bubba won. And I knew that Hemric was going to win eventually. I didn't think that it would come in this race like this. But if there's any time to do a backflip, especially off the roof, I feel like that's the perfect time to do it. And thank God he landed it.
Do you think he practiced? Do you think
I was going to ask you guys.
all those races he finished second, he was like, man, what if I had one and I botched this? Do you think he
there's no way you can
I think he did practice it.
No,
but what if, I mean, you don't want to not do that. You don't want to not nail it.
Exactly.
When the time comes, like, can you
That's
imagine?
why I think he definitely did practice. He probably did it at the shop.
Can you imagine if he'd done that and fell down and like face planted on the pavement right there in front of everybody?
Worst case scenario.
He did practice it.
Has he had like 119 different damage claims for rental cars over the years, practicing it going into each race weekend?
To your guys' point, I think like football players, they practice a touchdown celebration. Like you're always like, oh, I had this dance and this whole thing done up, and theirs is very choreographic. So maybe he did. I doubt it. I don't think so, but maybe.
I think he did. Maybe we'll get him on in a few episodes here, and we can ask him, because that's the thing. I mean, Dillon's completely right. It's not like a choreographed celebration with football where you're like doing a bowling pin or you're, taking pictures. This is quite literally, I mean, a life and death type thing. You know what I mean? Like, he could hurt himself pretty bad. And I know that he's done it before, but doing it in that moment with banking, you don't know where the car is going to be parked, off the roof, all this adrenaline, cameras in your face, people right next to you. Like, I feel like you have to practice that for the safety of everyone else.
Yeah, and it had been several years since he did it off the top of a car that we've been able to see in the public eye. So maybe he did. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I think he said the last time he did it was 2014 All-American 400. So it's been a hot minute since he did it, but thankfully he's alive. He is alert, awake, enthusiastic, and Daniel Hemric is an Xfinity Series champion. Let's talk about the press conference to end all press conferences, fellas.
Oh my God.
Ben Rhodes 2021 quite literally said, Brad Keselowski 2012, hold my beer. Literally. I mean, that was something.
Albuquerque. We talked yesterday at the media event. You seemed awfully zen then. Is that
yeah, I'm more zen now, thanks to my good friend Bud. Let me say something here. Libations are good. Championship's awesome. And this is going to be the weirdest press conference ever. You know what? Here's what I got to say. What was the question? And let me say something. I got the mic, so I can say it anyways. So, I was pissed. And here's how this went down. I said, Zane Smith, this is checkers or wreckers. I'm going to blow the motor trying to catch you.
And I'm sitting there in the media center as this is going on. You knew it was going to be a riot because he walks in, all the media is doing their thing. And he walks in, he goes, wow, Bob Parker, Chef Gluck, you guys are famous. and we were off and rolling. I mean, that was something. Mamba, were you able to watch the full 18-minute presser?
I did, and I could not be more proud of Ben Rhodes. He is the people's champion this year. I know everyone loves Larson and Caitlin with her shotguns, and it's amazing. But we're used to seeing that. We are not used to seeing Ben Rhodes have any personality.
No.
Let alone all the personality.
Yeah.
And then he's learning. Like, the best thing about this is, Ben came up and he won. He tore up the K&N series, which is ARCA now.
He was the next big thing.
He was the next big thing. Made the jump all the way to JRM. And granted, JRM wasn't great then either. They're good, but not great. Tore up a lot of stuff. Took a step back, kept working it, grinding it through the truck series. And it's interesting because he's gone up and came back. Usually when they go up and come back, they kind of disappear. They don't make it. But he stuck it out. And hats off to him and Rich Lucius. That was a badassery that they pulled off this year. And I'm so stoked for them. And for all of us for getting to watch Ben Rhodes drape over the championship flag over his shoulders. It was great.
It was great. It really was. Dillon, you've gotten to interview him on pit road and, throughout the years with MRN's coverage of the truck series. We know that Ben, even though nobody really saw it in the public eye, he was a fun guy. He wasn't really afraid to mix it up and make people laugh. But when you got a few Bud Lights in you and a lot of champagne and you're making your crew chief do a shoey, that's a whole nother level. And I don't think we had ever seen that level out of Ben Rhodes.
No, I mean, he's always been quirky, but I mean, it's kind of not that dissimilar to Brad too. I mean, Brad is a very focused and straightforward guy who, he can joke and be lighthearted, but most of the time when you interview him, he is focused. And that's kind of how Ben is, but we saw Brad cut loose when he won his championship, and you saw it with Ben. So I think it's a combination of guys who, they are super intense and they want to win and they're there to do their job. But when the pressure is off and they can relax and celebrate what they've done, they're fun guys. They're enjoyable to be around. And so I think you kind of saw that with both of those guys.
Yeah. Toby, what was your favorite part of the presser? Because I know you watched it all.
I like when he was sitting down, he called a shot. He goes, "This is going to be the weirdest press conference of all time."
It
and
was.
Sure enough, it lived up to it. I just love the fact that when guys do that, you go, on one hand, you go, that's so unprofessional, whatever, you can see it from that side. But on the other end, it's, this guy's a real person. I can see it. He's not a robot. He's not a corporate pitchman right now. This is the real guy. He's a real person just like us. We've had a few too many drinks every now and again. All of us have. Mamba. And we've had that moment. Mamba every night. I mean, come on, it just happens. But yeah, no, this is just cool to see that other side of somebody that you don't get that kind of a peek into very often. So it was really cool to see.
My favorite part, I think, also is he was talking with his hands, and he looked like Captain Jack Sparrow. Okay, so my crew chief told me, anyway, tires, air, things, and we went up and down, and it just worked. I was doing this.
He forgot Bob's name. Nobody forgets Bob's name.
All the engine noises he was making, all sorts of stuff. At the end of it, you guys are all my closest friends. You're in my circle now.
One of my favorite parts too is they went up to the press box for a question, and they're obviously not physically in the same room as you. So Jerry Jordan's talking from the press box, and Ben's kind of like, he's like, where is this coming from? And then we'll move on after this. But Mike Ford of NASCAR, right as the press conference started and he opened it up to questions, he goes, thoughts and prayers to our transcriptionist, because that was just like the most haywire, crazy press conference ever. And then also
the Toyota PR rep.
I know. And then the Toyota PR rep, Lisa, she takes away the Bud Light, and he's like, oh, it's just like the funniest.
Where you going with my bud?
I know. And Dillon, you mentioned Brad Keselowski too. A couple days later, which as of this recording is, I guess, 2 days before, but on pit road, he's celebrating his end of his Penske career with his big old Miller glass. So it all came full circle with the beer this weekend.
It did. I thought that was cool that he, not that he has never not embraced it, but I thought it was cool that he kind of leaned into that and capped it off with that too. That was fun.
Yeah. Mamba, did you know that Ben Rhodes' average finish, which I am a bad preparation person today, and I do not have it in front of me, but he has the best average finish in the entire Truck Series this season. Did you know that?
I didn't, but I'm not surprised. I lied. I'm a little surprised, but I'm not gonna lie. That is, I'm thinking about. I'm like, that is kind of surprising because
you would think John Hunter.
Well, the thing is like John Hunter and Sheldon Creed, they were hot, and then wrecking, right? Like there's things that was their season, and in Martinsville we saw the same thing with John Hunter. And then, dude, did any of you guys think that like the 4 at Phoenix was eerily similar to the 11 from, I think it was like 06 maybe, or oh no, I forget, when he was running with Jimmy and it was his first time, Denny's first time running for the championship. Everyone's like, oh, Denny's so fast at Phoenix, so fast at Phoenix. Or no, sorry, it wasn't Phoenix, Homestead. And he just had to get through. Well, he messed up in qualifying, starting out back. Then
he wrecked on lap 1, yeah.
Right. Then trying to get
backstretch
through, he wrecks on the backstretch. And it was just like, I felt like that was a lot of the same energy that I was getting from that.
Yeah, I could see that to a certain extent, but I think Denny's was more so like I'm a young driver, like I'm in a situation, and not necessarily his mess up either. I guess I'm talking myself into, because John Hunter's incident wasn't necessarily his fault either. You know, he was starting in the back and he was with slower traffic, and it just had some contact and he had to limp it around, and you start out 2 laps down. So Toby, I guess I could see that kind of comparison, and that put John Hunter behind the 8 ball all night.
Yeah, and once you get to that point of the thing, it's such a short race. The Truck Series race was too. That once you're down, if you don't get that lap back pretty quickly, and it was 2 laps down for John Hunter, that you're in a really hard to maneuver out of situation unless you do wave rounds or something like that. And they bailed on that strategy as well. So they really didn't do themselves any favor from a strategy standpoint to try to get out of it in time. He made a miraculous rally, almost was able to get up there and possibly pull it off, but there just wasn't enough time. Had they gotten a late caution, maybe. But yeah, it was just a rough night. But kind of circling back to your point on Ben Rhodes having the best average finish of anyone in the Truck Series this year, he also had the least amount of incidents all season long, according to the Toby Tracker.
Toby Tracker.
That's right. 6 incidents all season long, 22 races. That's pretty good in the Truck Series where things are known to get out of hand. So not too bad.
Yeah. I mean, Dillon, it feels like forever ago, but he won the first 2 races of the Truck Series season. The longest race in Truck Series history, by the way, at the Daytona Road Course. It feels like forever ago. Those were his only 2 wins. And you didn't really hear a whole lot more about him throughout the season because he was kind of just there. He was inside the top 10, but he was just there. Yeah, he was really consistent. So I think that's kind of what made him get to this spot. And then he didn't win the race, but he did enough.
Well, and I think the Truck Series, given how those races can sometimes go, it's a series that rewards consistency for that very reason, because you can get collected in something or have several, DNFs, not even by your own doing, or, just bad races. So if you can avoid all of that stuff somehow and just finish the races and finish them, well, that's going to take you a long way. So he did exactly what he needed to do.
All right, real quick before we throw it to break, Mamba, how many Bud Lights would it take you to get to Ben Rhodes' level?
How many Bud Lights? I don't know.
Or Trulies? How many
I don't
Trulies?
drink. Well, I'm a professional at this point. I'm a professional Truly deleter. So, but probably a case is 12. So give me 12, 16, maybe 18, maybe. Because eventually, but I like him though. He came out of the race car. So listen, you know what? Let's do this. At the Snowflake, come on down and let's find out. After the race, we'll find out how many it takes.
Is that
we'll start hammering back until you start Ben Rhodesing.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Dillon? How many Bud Lights would it take you to get to that level?
Probably not very many anymore. I don't drink very much anymore.
So old. What about you, Toby Tracker? We'll keep track.
Back in my heyday, it would have probably taken more than what Mamba was saying was his amount. But currently, who knows? I'd say maybe 6 to 8 right now.
Yeah.
What do you got, Davey? Dave, what you got?
I'm such a lightweight. I don't drink for a reason. So probably I would be on Ben Rhodes' level too, because I got a little kooky personality, and with some champagne and my crew chief doing a shoey, you give me like 2 or 3 Bud Lights and a championship, and I'll be feeling pretty good.
Listen, I can't wait to take you boys to the woodshed. Come on, let's
I'm
do
scared.
it. Let's sit around the table. Let's do this thing.
I am very scared. With that being said, before we get too drunk, let's throw it to break, and we'll be right back to talk about Kyle Larson, the 2021 Cup Series champion. Welcome back, everybody, to Off the Record. Toby Christie, Mamba, and Dillon Welch are hanging out with me this week to debrief after the championship weekend out in the Valley of the Sun. We talked about the Truck Series. We talked about the Xfinity Series. We've even talked about the ARCA Menard Series West. So last but certainly not least, fellas, Kyle Larson. 10 wins on the season, breaks the single season laps led record, an unbelievable showing in the playoffs, wins half of the races. First person since Tony Stewart to do that in 2011. It's only fitting, Dillon Welch, that Kyle Larson, the most dominant driver, the most dominant car, arguably the fastest pit crew all season long, it's only fitting that it all comes down to the final pit stop and the final 5 lug nut pit stop in this era of NASCAR, and the fastest car wins the race and wins the championship. Only fitting.
Yeah, it is. And I think that we all know at the start of the year that you can win 35 races and go to Phoenix and run second and not win the championship. That's just the format. We all know it. But yeah, it feels right when the guy who has clearly been the best all year is able to go and wrap it up with a championship. So it was, and he had to earn it, all the way down until that very last pit stop, because they were not the best car. The pit crew obviously did what they did to get him out there and won in the championship. So it was cool. It was, Kyle is a guy who's, obviously pretty composed and pretty stoic and sometimes doesn't show a lot of emotion. And I think it was pretty obvious how important that was to him and how much that meant to him, that they were able to get that done.
Yeah, definitely. That's what I was going to ask you, Toby, because we've heard Kyle in the past, say that the Chili Bowl to me is more prestigious than the Daytona 500, and the Knoxville Nationals to me is more prestigious than anything that I'll do in stock cars. But he was asked that point blank after he won the title, and he put this win and this championship P1 in terms of his racing accomplishments, which is a pretty long damn list. So I think to see that emotion out of him on the cool down lap, and I mean, it wasn't just like a tear. I mean, you guys were watching, you could see that he was balling. Like, this really, really meant a lot to him. So that was cool to see as well, to know that something was taken away from him, and to get this second chance and to deliver on it the way that he did, winning 10 freaking times, it means a lot to him.
Well, and I think a lot of the reason why he didn't put a Cup Series championship up above those other things that he had already accomplished to that point was, I don't think it was a realistic expectation for him up until this season. He had never been in equipment that was really the best. Chip Ganassi Racing is good equipment, and he won 6 races in that equipment, but never was really the guy you expected to kind of win a championship. So he got suspended last year, missed almost the entire season, comes back, and the best ride in the sport, has this amazing season. And I think that will change your perspective, especially with what he had to overcome to get to this point, all the wrongs he had to right, and he'll still continue righting some of those wrongs for years to come. But I think that's what kind of puts things in different perspective for him, is that this dream of winning a Cup Series championship, or even more races in the Cup Series, was over, and now it's back, and somehow he's overcome it and become champion. I think that's what really makes it what it is to him now.
To that point, he was asked about that, and he said, quote, "I don't know if I ever dreamt of winning the Cup championship," because he said that it was never even on his radar, and he called it, quote, "so far out there that I never thought I'd do it." And he was saying, I know I've said some stuff in the past about, holding this in higher regard, so don't get it twisted. I've always wanted to do it, but I never really dreamt of it, because I never thought that was a realistic opportunity. But to your point, Toby, right? What happens, I guess 18 months ago it was, on iRacing, his life is turned upside down, literally. And he has to get that second chance from NASCAR, from Hendrick Motorsports, from Chevrolet. He has to be forgiven by those necessary people. He has to do that work and put in the hours off track to be able to regain people's trust. And I don't think it's hyperbole to say one of those people was you, Mamba. And I know that in the immediate hours after he said what he said on iRacing, you guys were in contact. And, when he got reinstated, you were one of the first people I saw on Twitter to publicly back Kyle Larson, and throughout the whole process and what he was doing off track. So to see this culminate for somebody that you had a relationship way before what happened 18 months ago happened, that must be a source of pride for you as well, to kind of see a maturation process in an individual like that.
Yeah, man, I'm getting kind of chills the way he just the way you just laid it out. It's so, me and Kyle, when he got to NASCAR, was in the K&N series for the NASCAR diversity program. We competed for a spot together. I didn't make it, he did, but I ended up being the interior guy and tire guy for some time on his car. We won the 2012 championship together, which in this era of those drivers was the hardest championship that you'll ever win because of who
so
was
many names.
Yeah, Kyle Larson, Bubba Wallace, Corey LaJoie, Brett Moffitt, Sergio Pena, Ryan Blaney, like it's like DK, like all these guys were in it, right? And we won it, and we weren't the best when we did it. And I think for me, I always felt like that was a bond that me and Kyle had, right? Like when you win a championship, it solidifies everybody. And Kyle's helped me out with my racing. He sponsored me here and there, and I've been to parties with him and weddings and this, that, and the other. And when that happened, I was like, I wasn't really mad. I was super disappointed because that's not him. That's not in his character. And what happened, but he said what he said, and there was repercussions for it. But I wasn't gonna not support my friend, and he needed support. He needed people that knew who he was to let him know that he loved him, and I love him, and I'm so proud of him and the journey he's come. I'll go on record. It's hard to say this for sure because you never really know, but I feel like for somebody who's done something so detrimentally bad like that in sports, he did the most work to come back that we know of, and he put himself right in it. And he did a lot of stuff behind the scenes, and then it started coming to light of the things that he did. It's like you got to give that guy some credit for the work he put in and saw the wrong and what he did and fixed it, or at least is fixing it. And I just, God works in mysterious ways, man. And without all that stuff happening, is Kyle Larson the person that he is now? Probably, definitely, for surely not, right? But he's a great champion and a great race car driver. And above those things, I think he's a better person. And the position that he's in now, and the outreach that he can do, and how vocal he can be about it. Like, I made a mistake. You're going to make mistakes too, but that doesn't mean it's the end of your journey and what you're trying to do. I think that's a really important lesson. And I got to talk to him. We did backseat drivers after the race, and I got to chat with him. And I looked at him and I was like, dude, I told you with Cliff, you guys are going to be something special. And he just looked at me with his big wide eyes. He's like, man, I never thought this. He legitimately never thought that winning a championship was in the cards. And for him and Mr. H and Jeff Gordon and Cliff Daniels, who's a grinder as himself, and Marlon Yoder, the Amish Mafia, another grinder who's on his team. It's so cool, man. It's just super cool, super cool.
Yeah. Well, first off, thank you for sharing that perspective. It was awesome. I know we joke a lot on the show, but that was really good perspective. So thank you for sharing that. But you're right about that too, because I feel like in my limited interactions with him before what he said and talking to him now, like, yes, he has changed. I mean, going through a situation like that will change a person. It should, and it will. But hearing him talk after the race, I feel like it's the same Kyle. And that, I think that kind of speaks to what you were talking about, Mamba, is like when he said that, you knew that wasn't really him. And not to get cliche or deep or anything, but I really don't feel like that was. Because seeing how he talks, his mannerisms, how he treats people, his mindset when it comes to racing, et cetera, and you can speak to this as well, Dillon, because you've competed with him and against him in the Chili Bowl countless times. I feel like he is the same person. He just went through an insane learning experience for the better, and now he comes out on the other side, not only a champion on the racetrack, but also off of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that there's probably several blessings in disguise throughout this whole thing for Kyle as just a human, kind of like Mamba alluded to, but I think, one thing too, that I think this whole thing has probably reminded him of is just how fortunate he is to be in the situation he's in. I think that's why you saw that emotion, not only because he was a Cup Series driver and had it taken away from him, but, just the fact that he was a Cup Series driver in general, I'm sure all of those emotions, come flooding back to you, but Kyle has always been he's always been super humble. He's always been super appreciative of everything that he's gotten. And that goes back to even when he was, when he first came on to like the USAC scene in 2011, and he was doing all these crazy things, winning all these huge races, having never been to these type of tracks. He was always just super humble and grateful and appreciative of the opportunity. And this situation was probably just a reminder that, hey, as quickly as it happens for you, it can be that, quickly taken away as well. So I hope, and I think, that he has come out of this better, and Dillon certainly can, explain and has a better, closer relationship with them than I do. But I think that as bad as it was, I think this has turned into a positive for Kyle, the person, and just an individual as a whole.
I think it's a for Kyle, the person, for people in general, just how we go about things. Like you just got to really sit back, I think, and look at it and like understand that even good people do bad things sometimes, but that doesn't make them bad people. Like there's nobody in this panel or anybody who's going to listen to this that can say they've never said something they wish they didn't say, or said something that hurt somebody or hurt a group of people, right? Like it just not, and it happens. That doesn't make it right. But you do got to, lick those wounds and fix it. And I just, it means a lot to me, because that's somebody that I would stamp my name beside and support day in and day out whenever. So, the fact that he's put in all the work, that work, without that work, I don't think he becomes a champion, right? Without the personal work, you can't become a champion. And we've seen that with other champions, Kyle Busch doesn't become a champion without working on who Kyle Busch was when he was going through all his on-track stuff. So, it's just a good lesson, I think, for everybody.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me, for Kyle Larson, on his path to getting reinstated, that made me know he was genuine, wasn't that he never talked about reinstatement from NASCAR. Every time he was asked about at these dirt tracks, hey, when are you going to apply for reinstatement? He goes, that's not on my radar. I'm not worried about that. I'm just trying to do the right things. And even to his point, the stuff he was doing with the Urban Youth Racing School and all these other things, we didn't hear about that stuff until months after he did it. He wasn't bringing a camera crew with him to try to go, hey, look, I'm trying to do the right thing here. Can I get back in? He did it silently. He did it quietly behind the scenes. He really was trying to better himself. And the focus was never, can I get back to NASCAR? It was, I'm going to keep doing my short track stuff. I'm going to keep doing the right stuff behind the scenes. If it works out on the NASCAR side, great. If not, I'm doing the best I can. And that's all there is to it. And that's when I knew, when I started seeing those kind of things happening, that he was truly genuine in what he was doing. And it wasn't just lip service. It wasn't him just trying to, at least visually, right the wrongs. He was really trying to put in the work to really actually do it behind the scenes.
For sure.
Yeah, I agree with everything. That was a great conversation, fellas. We keep it lighthearted, but it was good to get a little deep. But don't worry, because we're going to take a quick break and we'll come right back, and we're going to break down the race itself, that lightning fast pit stop that the 5 crew had to get Larson out first and ultimately win the championship. Coming up right next on Off the Record. Welcome back to Off the Record. Right next, we're going to talk about the race itself. Don't know what that was, but hey, it's been a long weekend. Let's talk about the race, guys, and let's talk about that last pit stop. I mean, I actually, you guys see that video that NASCAR posted with Luigi doing the pit stop from Cars? Yes. And they like put the 5 over it. I'm not ashamed to say I have watched that maybe 5 times, and I literally got goosebumps every time I watched it, because not only is that the best movie of all time, but that may have been the most clutch pit stop of all time. Dillon, I don't even know where to begin with that, but the number 1 pit stall definitely had a lot to do with it. But a sub 12-second pit stop, that'll do the job as well. Gained 3 spots on the final stop. That was money any way you could slice it. And the number 5 pit crew, Larson said it, Cliff Daniels said it, they won him that championship.
Well, and what a rush that had to have been for those guys to to know that they had to perform, and then to do it at that level, and ultimately they had to, still wait 20 laps or whatever for Kyle to win the race. But
they did their job.
Yeah. But just that feeling of being able to know that you came in 3rd or 4th, I guess, and watch you guys, watch you and your boys do your job and do it so well that your driver gets out first and then wins the championship. I mean, that has to be like, I'm sure those guys are still on cloud nine, just on that adrenaline alone and that rush that probably gave them. So I thought it was super cool. And we talk about it all the time, right? We talk about how it is a team sport and how you can really win or lose things on pit road. And we talk about it so much that it just kind of becomes like,
noise,
background noise. Yeah. And you don't really think about it, but that was 100%, in front of your eyes proof that this is a team sport and it takes every single guy on that team to win a championship. And so I think that was cool. And it was cool that, obviously everybody on NBC, acknowledged it. And it was cool that Kyle acknowledged it too, and made it a point to, make sure that those guys didn't get forgotten because they were as much a part of it as he and Cliff were.
Absolutely. Yeah. Toby, I know that you have the Toby tracker. I don't know if you have any pit stop or pit crew stats, but I didn't need stats to tell me that was the most clutch pit stop I had seen in a really, really long time.
Yeah, and all season, people have been kind of bummed out that we're losing the 5 lug nuts next year, going to the 1. And I've been kind of like, whatever, I think it's going to be fine. But then that happens. I'm like, man, that is pretty cool when a team can rise to the occasion and do that. So I hope we still have a way for teams to really, get a leg up on each other with the 1 lug nut next year. But this was an amazing performance by this team, even 0.02 of a second slower. And I think they don't get the lead coming out because Hamlin was there. So it was 100% perfect, the exact way it needed to be for them to get that lead coming off pit road. That set up the championship run for Larson. Obviously, he qualified on the pole, didn't have the best car early on, but he led the most laps on the day. So he did a lot of the things he needed to do throughout the day to put himself in a position. But that team, when it mattered most, got the stop of the year. And that's what really gave them the championship.
Yeah, and I want to give a shout out to the pit crew members too. I tweeted it out, but the front changer, Donnie Tassler, rear changer, Calvin Teague, tire carrier, RJ Barnett, jackman, Brandon Johnson, and the fuel man, Brandon Harder. We got to give a shout out to them because, we talk about the pit crews. It's a team sport. Put some respect on their name, Mamba, because they did that thing.
Them boys done did the dang thing. There's some bad Mamba jammers. As Stephen A. Smith said, that's a bad man. Seriously though, that has got to be like for them, right? As a pit crew, I mean,
that's the peak.
Like you're at that point, you're talking about like final second shot stuff, last minute field goal stuff, like getting a turnover when you need it, like just that's the comparison for us to stick and ball as far as that goes.
Quick rapid fire, one word to describe this NASCAR season. Trucks, Xfinity, Cup, everything. What?
One word?
Yeah, one word. Rack your brains. I'll give you 5 seconds to think about it. Okay, I'll go first. Redemption. Kyle Larson gets his redemption. Daniel Hemric, I don't know if he was redeemed for anything, but he got kicked out of the Cup Series, so there's that. And Ben Rhodes, hot prospect, goes back down, redemption, wins a championship. Redemption is my word. Since you were talking crap, Mamba, what's yours?
Epic. It was
Fair
epic,
enough.
man.
Toby?
I say incredible. It was an incredible season all the way through. There were a few races here and there that, weren't the best.
I gotta say timeout.
Incredible.
You don't get to expand on it. You got one word.
Incredible.
What you understand about rapid fire?
Yeah.
Incredible. Next.
Dillon,
go.
Yeah, I was going to just say deserving. I think all the champions are deserving. So
that's true. And that's a great place to end it, fellas. This has been fun. Thanks for hanging out with us all year long. We ain't going anywhere, though. We'll be here throughout the off season as well. But thank you guys for listening to Off the Record. We'll be right next week with another episode. Dillon Welch, Toby Christie, Mamba. I am your boy, Davey. Thank you guys for listening and watching. We'll catch you on the flip side.